Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Enough, I get the point.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and we've had a few comic books missing in action for quite a while following the pandemic shutdown. Obviously, everything that was kind of associated with Free Comic Book Day had been kind of spread out over like a 3-month period, but there were questions about what DC Comics were going to do because they're no longer associated with Diamond Comics. They're over with Lunar and UCS. And then we had a whole gaggle of Marvel comics that it looked like they were all going digital. That's at least what they had announced, and they've changed up their plans. So we're going to kind of talk about these comics that are coming back into the fold, where you can find them, and kind of what it all means. And here to talk with me about this is my good friend, freelance writer, editor, and just a good guy. You're just a good guy, Aaron. How you doing?
Now you sound like you're the one that's been drinking because you're just being very warm and hey, you're a good guy. You're just a really good guy.
Just buttering you up so you can drop some F-bombs and lay it all out there.
That's right. Just all my secrets exposed.
Absolutely, that's the plan. So interestingly enough, we knew that Generation Zero was supposed to essentially be the kickoff for DC's Generation 5, which is a kind of a controversial event. Weren't a lot of details. Bleeding Cool put a lot of chum out there, got the sharks circling the waters as it was going to be this like big diversity campaign. Turned out that probably wasn't going to be the case. It's going to be more like Age of Apocalypse, like an alternate future where different characters had done different things and the main heroes had been replaced by new versions of the heroes. We knew there was going to be like a black Batman that was going to be Luke Fox, and I think John Kent was going to be Superman, stuff like that. And we don't have a lot of information. We didn't have any information on Generation Zero, the Free Comic Book Day that was going to, kick that off. And now we do have information. DC will have a Free Comic Book Day, but it will be Batman Overdrive, Batman Once Upon a Time. That's going to be coming out on July 29th. And that story, Generation Zero, actually released this week in the pages of Scott Lobdell and Brett Booth's Flash Forward trade paperback. What a weird place to put a comic story that important.
It really surprised me. I'm still like going, why would they do that? And then I realized that, they're not planning to be part of Free Comic Book Day because that's a Diamond thing and that gets all distributed through Diamond, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, now that I think about it, it absolutely makes sense to do it the way that they're doing it because they've just completely switched what they want to do. Now, I don't know why they did that. Maybe the files and the printed version of the Flash book were already at Diamond and there's some contractual problem with doing that story in that format. Or maybe not, but I can see why they went with Batman. Batman's their cash cow right now. They do try to do, everything they can with that character.
Well, I believe they're going with that one because it's kind of like probably a standalone story that doesn't lead into anything. So it can come out and they aren't kind of tied to it, but it feels like I don't know. Are they burying Generation Zero because Generation 5 isn't happening? Is that event canceled? I've kind of been slowly coming to that conclusion that DC has just decided to wipe the slate clean and kind of get rid of it. Although, when we talked to Purchase perspective, after talking to some people, was that it had just been scaled down massively. It would still happen, but in a smaller form. Like I'm starting to wonder if I just don't think it is going to happen. There's a reason they put it in there because as great as Flash Forward is, and I highly encourage everyone, if you haven't read that story, go get that trade. That is a great story by Scott Lobdell, Brett Booth. Really resuscitates the character of Wally West after the character assassination by Tom King in Heroes in Crisis. But it's not going to have a huge print run. It's probably going to be like maybe 1,000, 1,500, something like that. To put a crucial story in there makes me think it's definitely not crucial. And maybe they just need to get it in there because it's kind of the end of Wally West's story that was started there.
Yeah, we may not even be getting the final version. The intended version may have been to lead into to this big crossover event, but if it's just, we might even be getting a version that has a new ending. Like, hey, we're going to use this because it wraps up Flash Forward, but we're not leading into this event. So why don't you just cut it here and, add 6 pages and finish it off in a close-ended loop.
Yeah, I think apparently it does kind of lead into what Dark Knight's Death Metal #1 is, but that already came out like 2 weeks ago. So even then, the timing is really off. Just so confusing. DC's in such a power position right now, despite some of their creators acting like jackasses on social media right now. They really got all the stories. With Dark Knight's Death Metal, you got Joker War starting up within a couple of weeks. Even Batman 3 Joker's coming out. Not a lot exciting coming out from Marvel, and there wasn't a lot of enthusiasm for 5G. There was a lot of controversy, so I think there probably would have been sales, but it might not even be the worst idea if they just decide, you know what, this was going to be a lemon upon delivery. People weren't accepting the event anyway. We have a new direction going out of the Dark Knight's Death Metal. Maybe it's best to just cut our losses and move on.
I mean, you may be right. I think that it's disappointing to think that DC is going to move ahead with death metal as kind of the driving force of where they're headed, because it's just so grim, and I'm so kind of tired of that, and tired of the dark multiverse, and I was really tired of the Batman Who Laughs. So I was kind of hoping they'd move away from that. But the way that you described 5G sounds way better than anything I heard coming off of Bleeding Cool. The way you describe it as like an Age of Apocalypse type event, I actually would be excited for that. So now, if that was the case, I'm disappointed that we're not getting it.
I'm with you. Once I kind of started getting all the details of it was going to be an alternate future where kind of Wally West as Dr. Manhattan in the Mobius chair went back, tried to fix something, ruined everything, and had to go and save the DC universe and put it back together again. I thought, man, that sounds really cool. I don't mind seeing these other versions of characters. Are some of them going to be evil? I wanted to see it. I thought it sounded interesting. But I don't think that information just wasn't really getting out there. DC had a really hard time getting ahead of it and actually getting the information about 5G and what it really was, or G5, Generation 5, and what it really was for people, because Bleeding Cool just kind of carpet bombed them. They put out like 3 articles right in a row, just salting the earth on any interest that would have been in 5G, and just telling everybody that this is basically Marvel now.
It's really disappointing because, again, the comic industry suffering at the hands of something that Bleeding Cool did. I really feel like that you can point to several different instances throughout comic history where Bleeding Cool has done something and absolutely ruined it for everybody. And if what you're describing is what was going to happen, I'm really pissed now, because that sounds amazing. The whole idea of an Age of Apocalypse type story in the DC universe is something that would really, get fans' blood pumping, I think. And now,
can you imagine you come in one week and all of a sudden it's no longer Nightwing, or it's Nightwing, but it's a new character on the cover, and you're like, what the heck's going on here? Kind of throws off your equilibrium. You get in there, you start getting excited. How are we going to get back to the way it was? But I dig where we're at, kind of like with what happened with Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah, and I was working in a comic shop when Age of Apocalypse was coming out, and I remember people were like, oh, I don't know what this is going to be. I'm really worried about this. They're just changing everything for the sake of changing it. All those arguments that you see online now were happening in the comic shop. And then when it came out, everybody loved it. Everybody thought it was incredible. So I think that DC could have really had that moment. And it's really a shame if Bleeding Cool and their, interest in stirring up controversy and clicks, if they somehow, destroyed any chance of that happening, because I think it really could have been a fun story. And right now, just from a toy perspective, what Hasbro has released is Marvel Legends figures of the Age of Apocalypse. So, and they're selling like crazy. People are thrilled. People are really excited. So there you go.
People love nostalgia. They love being reminded of that moment when they were younger and they were excited about something. So if you were able to replicate or duplicate that feeling, at DC Comics, it would have sold exceptionally well. I guarantee it.
Yeah, definitely. And I like the idea of, seeing what a Lucius Fox Batman would look like. Or,
it's Luke Fox. It was his son.
Oh, gotcha.
I believe he's Batwing in the New 52.
Yes. Okay, so that, but I mean, still, you know what? That doesn't interest me as much as the idea of Lucius as Batman, but still enough to get me to pick up a book. And God, isn't that what we want?
Yes, we always want something different until different happens, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Not that I'm above criticism here. Oftentimes when I see change that I think is a little too far or goes against the grain of the characters, I certainly will voice my opinions here. But I do like bold new directions if they work within the framework of the characters and the universe. In this case, going to a completely different version of the universe because the timeline's been ruined. You really are. There's no restrictions. You can just do whatever you want. Yeah,
and that's something that fires fans' imaginations and gets them talking. And yeah, it's really disappointing. I think we might have missed out on something pretty great.
Now, obviously, it could still happen, although I feel like it's being buried in this flash forward trade paperback. And if you haven't bought it, definitely go and check it out because that is a great story. But if it was still leading into a big event, it feels like it would have come out as Free Comic Book Day, or maybe they would have, put it as a mini story in the, as 5 pages in Batman or what are the big comics are that would have a lot of sales where people would be able to pick them up. Unfortunately, of course, it could happen. Like I said, Perch still maintains that it's just going to be a smaller scale down version, but I'm kind of, I'm starting to come to the conclusion. I just don't think it's happening.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I hope Perch is right, but I feel like we're right. So we'll see which way it goes.
So that is not the only comic book that was missing in action. A while back, Marvel announced that they were just going to conclude a ton of their miniseries on digital only, and that included Ant-Man, Avenger of the Wasteland, Ghost Spider, which actually was an ongoing, Hawkeye Freefall, Valkyrie Jane Foster, I think Star was in there, a bunch of stuff like that. And it turned out, I guess this has me thinking, because apparently they're all coming out in between August 5th and September 9th now. And they're all going to conclude in physical. And I support this Aaron. And the reason why is people have invested their time and money in those series, finish them out on print, let them get their complete runs. And if you want to move this ongoing series over to digital or whatever, or maybe just move your more obscure characters, don't release them in print to begin with. Just move them over to digital as digital first only releases. So I think this is a good thing for people who are buying those series and invested in the characters. But it also feels like this is a response to the retailers and fans saying, where's Marvel? Where are my Marvel comics? There's no Marvel comics out right now.
Well, first of all, I agree with you that I think it's good that these are coming out in print. I know a lot of customers, that we have at the shops came in and were, basically saying like, so wait, I bought 1 and 2 of this and I'm never going to get 3. Like what a way to screw me over. So I think that it's probably smart for Marvel to do that. I don't know if it'll help retailers at all because, a lot of the comics that were coming out were not huge sellers. But maybe Marvel also needs the money. Maybe they looked at the orders that they were going to have to cancel with Diamond and the amount of money that those orders were going to generate, and it came out ahead for them, and they were like, well, wait, we can't afford to lose any money right now, so we better grab that.
Yeah, so it does feel like they're taking a step back and being like, okay, maybe we were cutting down too much, and the retailers and Marvel themselves need some physical comics to sell out there, and they're getting some more books out there because let's be honest, Aaron, they're going to need to flood the shelves eventually.
Yeah, I think the big problem is that Marvel does need to flood the shelves to stay afloat. And I don't know if the market's going to be able to support that anymore. And, for them, they can put out these books that weren't really selling in the first place to kind of pad out the lineup for the rest of the year. But the big problem for them is they don't have time to course correct. So they do kind of got to dump these books because in their main stories, those are already, so many months ahead. And then they went pencils down. So everything has to kind of play out that was already in play. They don't have time to come in and say, okay, we had this break and now we're going to do something new and different, more towards what the fans have been asking for instead of what we've been giving them. They don't have that ability to pivot. So it'll be a good 6 months before you see any changes in, story as far as, things that will draw readers back.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think you are right. And I think one of Marvel's big problems is, and you might know more about this than I do at being an actual comic writer and editor, is that Marvel, I've heard rumors, not even rumors, I've had direct stories about their hiring practices and the way that they pay people, and they are awful. So they don't have a stock of just premier talent that they can kind of spread around and maybe put a good talent on a mediocre title here and there. A lot of times they have to do the opposite. They're putting mediocre, low-level talent on pretty premier characters because they don't have enough premier writers to go around. And so it's lowered the quality of their books. You know, the upper crust is still really good. If you got Chip Zdarsky, Donny Cates, Jonathan Hickman, a few other writers on there, you know, you're probably going to get a good story. But other than that, you know, kind of all bets are off. You don't know if you're going to get a good Captain America story. It seems like Spider-Man's pretty good right now, but a lot of these main characters are kind of on life support, and it's because of their own hiring practices, not putting money into the characters. You get what you pay for, Sparrow. If you pay bottom rung, low tier, payout for writers, you're going to get bottom tier, low rung stories most of the time.
I think the other problem too is you're milking that talent pool and shuffling them around from character to character, and you may be just throwing them onto a book that, you know, with a character that they have no affinity for. And a writer that can't really get into the head of a character is not going to deliver a story that's compelling or interesting or stands the test of time. And I think a lot of these writers are kind of being thrown to the wolves that way because it is just such a flood the shelf strategy. Like, you know, we've talked about before, the editors aren't working with them to help them develop their craft. They're not getting the support that they would have gotten, you know, even 5 years ago in the industry. So it's putting them in a bad position.
It doesn't feel like they're having to pitch right now. They don't have to pitch their story, to pitch their idea and sell why they should be the writer for Iron Man. Why should you be the writer for Spider-Gwen? Why are you the person that's right for the Avengers? It doesn't feel like they're being typecast for the series rather than pitching their best idea and selecting the one that best fits the Marvel universe and character.
Well, I mean, that's a merit-based system that you're describing, Wes, and you know, that's not what we have right now. You know, we've got everything but that in a lot of ways. And I'm not saying that, you know, a lot of the writers that they hire, you know, based on identity politics or, you know, the press release that they can put out, patting themselves on the back for being so progressive. You know, I'm not going to say that some of those writers don't have raw talent, but they're not being developed. They're being put on things too soon, and they don't have the editors looking out for them. They're just trying to check a box, you know, so they can get a nice, I don't know, salon.com article or whatever it is that they get out of it. And they're doing a disservice to these people because, you know, you think of the writers that have been propped up in like the last 2-3 years and what their sales have been. And now they're kind of running aground and they're not getting work anymore. And they're asking themselves like, well, you know, what happened?
They got their big break and they weren't ready and they weren't supported.
Yeah. And so like, it's like you got used for, you know, your identity or whatever it is that, you know, they could use to promote themselves and pat themselves on the back. But at the end of the day, they don't care about you.
All right, Aaron. So the one thing we do have to talk about, there are 2 series. There's more than that, but there's 2 specific series we still don't have a release date for. Of course, these both comics were kind of mocked when they came out. People made a lot of videos about them, rightfully so. New Warriors, Children of the Atom, which we have heard is going to be a limited series. It's not going to be an ongoing anymore. Still no release date on those. I have 100% faith Children of the Atom will come out in print. But what are they going to put New Warriors out? You know, obviously they wanted the controversy. They wanted the clicks. They got, you know, record amount of downvotes on YouTube for that trailer. Are they trying to wait out the storm? Is it even possible?
I mean, I think it's a mistake to not put it out at this point. I think they got such media coverage over that. Now, granted, all negative, but they got such media coverage on that. And I think, you know, I think pretty much everybody who came in contact with that story, you know, that's a comics fan and was against this book, you know, and thought this is ridiculous and I hate it, I think now would totally hate by it because I think now we all have to know. And maybe I'm wrong, you know, I'm sure the comments will tell me. But I mean, that's my feeling is that, you know, people would check it out. They'd pick it up because they'd be like, you know what? I gotta know. I gotta see this train wreck. We all want to watch.
I know. I have to review it on the channel.
Yeah. You know, and everybody's going to want to follow along with you because, you know, as you're tearing it apart, they're going to want to be, you know, seeing every panel.
Hey, you never know. It could be good. You know, I don't want to, you know, prejudge a comic book by its cover, but the cover does make me think that the interiors probably aren't all that well fleshed out or thought out, and it's really just there to push an agenda rather than make a great comic story.
Yeah, push some buttons, get some people fired up, insult all the wrong people, all the things that they usually say on their Twitter. I think that was what was intended. But I think, in the long run, they may have accidentally stumbled into getting themselves a book that's a pretty good seller, at least for the first issue, as people check it out, because that curiosity will be there, even if you're hate reading.
Yeah, case in point, I know Brie Larson just started her own YouTube channel, and there were people outraged. She's already got 200,000 subscribers. It was like, well, here on YouTube, we kind of made her a controversial figure. Did we think people wouldn't go look at her channel and see what she has to say?
Yeah,
made her a big deal.
And if you look at the ratio, she's getting a lot more, people disagreeing with her than agreeing with her, and that's the risk that you run. But people are still watching. You're getting the views.
I can tell you right now, in the YouTube game, a disagreeing point of view and an agreeing point of view are worth the exact same. And in many ways, a disagreement is worth more, because a grievance, people almost can't not put it in your comments and engage with you.
Yeah, and then that's going to start an argument. So more and more engagement.
It goes into the algorithm. It shows that you got engagement, that people are interested in the video, and it gets promoted more.
Man, YouTube is just one big Streisand effect, isn't it?
It's the way YouTube works. So actually, those negative engagements, those people going in there and dunking on her, actually get the video viewed more because it gets promoted more. That's the way it works.
And and then other people do videos on it, and that's what got me interested in it. Like, if you just walked up to me that day, I think someone told me, like, oh, you hear Brie Larson started a YouTube channel, and I was like, so. Why would you even tell me that? I don't care. And then what would make you think I'd be interested? And then a couple people do a YouTube videos on it, and all of a sudden I'm like, maybe I'll go watch your video, see what I think of it.
Well, there you go. See, I haven't checked it out myself, but I can certainly see why there's interest, and people would go subscribe, and maybe they want to yell at her and tell her she's an idiot and make her some more money. That's the way it works.
Yeah. And I don't even know, like, I was thinking about it, like, if I go over there and watch it, like, I didn't enjoy Captain Marvel. I didn't think it was great. I think I've liked her in other things. I think I liked her in The Room. Was that the movie that she did?
She was all right in 21 Jump Street. I believe she was in The Room.
Okay, yeah, and I love her in Scott Pilgrim. I mean, granted, it wasn't a huge role, but I thought she nailed it. So I don't know, like, I don't necessarily like, your Hollywood types, but I don't know. I feel like maybe I wouldn't hate her if I watched her video. Maybe something does come through that shows a little humanity that would make me like, you know what? She's just a young girl trying to navigate her way in Hollywood. Maybe I just need to chill out a bit.
Yeah. Probably was just a wrong role for her, and try to use her platform for a bit too much, rather than embracing what Captain Marvel is in the MCU, which of course is invariably going to turn off a bunch of fans. But that is another subject. Obviously, we went into Brie Larson's YouTube channel here, just kind of talking about YouTube and the way it works, and why they probably should produce New Mutants and Children of the Atom. Aaron, I think we're about wrapping up here. Is there anything else that you needed to say before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I just want to tell everybody who's listening that I went into this tonight 3 whiskeys deep. So if you can tell, that's what's going on with me. I hope I wasn't too incoherent.
No, you were coherent, but you're definitely bobbing up and down or something. So there's a little bit of rustling going on, but hopefully the viewers are good with it.
Oh, damn. Okay, sorry guys.
No worries, buddy.